Why do some brigade commanders only care about stats instead of actual soldiers? Colonel Briggs ran our brigade like a spreadsheet. Every morning briefing was the same. Physical training scores, equipment readiness percentages, promotion rates, never asked about the soldiers themselves. I was a supply sergeant, saw it firsthand. Briggs would walk through our warehouse pointing at inventory numbers. Why is your hand receipt only 92% accurate? I need 95. Never noticed Private Nolan working alone in the corner. Kid had been there 12 hours straight fixing a computer error. Briggs walked right past him without a word. Our unit had the highest readiness scores in the division. Briggs made sure of that. Monthly awards went to whoever improved the numbers most. Didn't matter if you actually helped soldiers. Sergeant Wade ran the motor pool. Great mechanic, terrible at paperwork. His maintenance completion rate looked bad on paper, but every vehicle actually worked perfectly. Briggs threatened to relieve him anyway. The numbers don't lie, Wade. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Vincent in another company had perfect statistics. His reports always showed 100% vehicle readiness, but everyone knew he was lying. Half his trucks didn't run, he just marked them as operational. Briggs promoted Vincent to captain, gave Wade a negative counseling statement. The breaking point came during annual training. We deployed to a field site for 2 weeks. Simulated combat operations, live fire exercises, the whole deal. Second day there, Private Felix started complaining about stomach pain. Went to the medics, they said it was probably just stress. Gave him some antacids and sent him back. Felix kept working, didn't want to be seen as weak. By day 4, he could barely stand. His squad leader, Sergeant Lane, tried to send him to medical again. Briggs intercepted them. What's the problem here? Lane explained Felix needed to see a doctor. Real hospital, not just the field medics. Briggs pulled out his tablet, started scrolling through readiness reports. We're already down 2 soldiers for medical. If Felix leaves, our unit strength drops below 90%. That affects my numbers. Sir, he's in serious pain, Lane argued. He's probably faking to get out of training. Give him Motrin and send him back to work. Lane's face went red, but what could he do? Briggs outranked him by several levels. Felix tried to push through, made it another 6 hours before collapsing during a night patrol. Started vomiting, fever spiking, couldn't stay conscious. This time the medics didn't ask permission. Called for an emergency medevac helicopter. Flew Felix straight to the hospital. Appendicitis. Had been building for 3 days. By the time he got to surgery, his appendix had already ruptured. Poison spreading through his abdomen. Doctor said another few hours and he would have died from septic shock. Felix spent 2 weeks in intensive care. Nearly didn't make it. All because Briggs cared more about his 90% readiness number than a soldier's life. Division commander found out what happened. Showed up at our field site unannounced. General Sutton, old infantry guy who'd actually led soldiers in combat, called Briggs into his mobile headquarters. We couldn't hear what was said, but we saw Briggs walk out 30 minutes later looking like he'd been hit by a truck. Next morning formation, Briggs stood in front of the entire brigade, voice shaking slightly. I made a serious error in judgment regarding Private Felix. Put statistics ahead of soldier welfare. That will never happen again. Thought it was just empty words. Standard damage control speech. But something actually changed. Week later, back at base, Sergeant Wade got called to Briggs' office. Expected another lecture about his paperwork. Instead, Briggs asked him to explain his maintenance philosophy. Wade was confused, but answered honestly. Sir, I focus on fixing what's broken, not just making reports look good. Takes longer, but the vehicles actually work. Briggs nodded slowly. Show me. They spent 3 hours in the motor pool. Briggs watching Wade actually work on trucks, talking to mechanics, learning how things really operated versus how they looked on paper. That afternoon, Briggs walked into Lieutenant Vincent's motor pool unannounced. Started randomly checking vehicles that showed as fully mission capable. Found 7 trucks that didn't run, 3 missing critical parts, 1 that hadn't been started in 2 months. All marked operational in Vincent's reports. Vincent got relieved of duty that same day. Briggs brought charges for falsifying official documents. Wade got promoted to operations sergeant, put in charge of actually fixing the motor pool, not just the statistics. Felix recovered fully. Got out of the hospital 6 weeks later. First person waiting for him at the hospital exit was Colonel Briggs. I owe you an apology, Briggs said. Handed Felix a coin, his personal brigade commander coin. Almost killed you because I was staring at numbers instead of seeing soldiers. Felix didn't know what to say, just nodded and pocketed the coin. Briggs implemented new policies across the brigade. Every commander had to spend 4 hours weekly working directly with junior enlisted soldiers. No computers, no statistics, just face-to-face time. Monthly awards started going to people who actually helped others, not just whoever had the best spreadsheets. Our readiness numbers actually dropped at first. Turned out half the great statistics were fabricated like Vincent's reports. But within 6 months, real readiness improved dramatically. Briggs retired last year after 30 years of service. His farewell speech wasn't about statistics or mission accomplishment rates. He talked about Felix, about how almost losing 1 soldier taught him more about leadership than 3 decades of focusing on numbers. Felix was there in the audience, still had that coin in his pocket. Briggs called him up on stage, shook his hand, thanked him for the lesson. I ran into Briggs at a coffee shop last month. He works as a consultant now, helping companies improve their operations. Asked him what he tells them. He smiled and said, same thing I learned the hard way. Take care of your people first. The numbers will follow.